awesome. Every day, all day. This is how. This is 97.9, the BOX.
All right. Keisha Nicole here with Good Morning H-Town. Special guest this morning, which I'm excited to talk about because I read her first book, Lost and Found, and she has a new book coming out. Well, actually, it's out now because it came out yesterday, right? Sarah Jakes Roberts, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Come on, Lost and Found. We go way back.
Girl, that book, let me just tell you, got me through some things. Because we've all been lost and we've all found a way through whatever we've been going through in life, you know? And now we're here, Women Evolve. Let's talk about that book. What inspired you to write?
So you read Lost and Found. When Lost and Found ends, I'm kind of at this stage where I feel found, but I'm not really sure who I'm supposed to become after this. And a lot of times we end up making a decision that we know is supposed to make our life better, but we don't know how to move forward. So we're stuck between, I know I can't go back to who I was, but how do I grow into who I can become? And that's really where Woman Evolve enters. It's been 7 years since I wrote Lost and Found. And in those 7 years, my life has evolved. There's been so much about myself that I didn't know was in me, but I had to do some work to get it done. And so Woman Evolve is really me laying out, what I found in scripture, what I found through my own experiences that I know will help other women come to a place where they feel like they've evolved into someone they didn't even know existed within themselves.
Speaking of evolving, do you feel like, because when I look at you, I feel like, okay, she has it all. She's married, she has a career, she's walking in purpose. Do you feel like you truly can have it all at some point in your life?
I do. I don't think that you can always have it all at the same time. And I think that everyone's all is different. The first thing that I wanted to have was all of me. And when I felt like I had all of me, where I was no longer beating myself up for who I used to be, and I was excited about what existed in my present, I finally had all of me. And then everything else that was added was literally like a cherry on top. And so I think the goal for me is to get women to embrace that having it all is having all of themselves, so that any additions aren't necessary, but they are enjoyable.
I always come across your videos on social media. Like everyone's always sharing your sermons. How has that changed? As it applies to you preaching and sharing the word. How has that changed for you?
When you have a few things that end up going viral, it challenges you to make sure that you stay like authentic and connected to the core of what you're meant to do. I think anytime you start gaining traction in different circles, that you have to challenge yourself and not start like playing towards an audience. And so it is helped me to stay committed to my core and to make sure that what I am receiving is something that feels relevant and true to me. And it just happens to, also resonate with other people. And then they end up sharing it, which is always, a blessing for me.
And I know that a lot of women follow you, and I think about like even myself and self-care. This past year we had this pandemic and a lot of people found themselves really finding themselves and finding what makes them happy. I know for me, I never used to live my life, in balance. It was just like all work, all work, all work. And it was like, okay, you have to find out what really truly makes you happy outside of work and not allowing your work to be your identity. Why is it so important that women care for themselves? Because we have a lot of responsibilities. Like you have kids, right? You have work, you have the husband. How important is it for you to care for yourself as a woman?
I love that, because when you were so busy, there were probably things that you were doing that were self-care, like getting my hair done, getting my nails done, and those things are self-care. And yet the pandemic forced us to go within. So in the book, I talk about the difference between self-care and soul care. We need both of them, but that soul care, I think, is even more important than self-care. It's asking yourself, how am I doing? How did that affect me? How did that change the way that I show up in the world? It's taking 10 minutes in the car, 10 minutes in the shower, and connecting with yourself intentionally. And from that place of soul care, we get to determine, what can I take on today? Because sometimes when our soul feels fragile and we are aware of that, then we don't expose ourselves as much. But when we're in this autopilot mode, we end up just having experience after experience, exposure after exposure, with no real sense of self in the middle of it.
When did you come to this place of self-discovery? Like, okay, this is who I am and I'm going to walk in this fully.
Okay, so that's a great question, and no one has asked me that. So there is this message that I preached in 2018. It was like the first Sunday of 2018, and it was called Unleashed. And I remember that being a moment that was defining for me because I was very like scripted in my speaking. I would study and like I knew exactly where I was headed in a moment, but I was teaching this message called Unleashed, and it was in that moment where I like abandoned my notes and I was just out there walking on faith, saying what came to me. And that moment of being unleashed really changed everything for my life because I kind of live, teach, speak, write like that now, where I'm not confined rather to what I think a moment should look like. And I'm free enough to kind of say, let's see what this can happen because I finally trust myself.
So that's when it was like, okay, this is where I'm most connecting with everyone else too.
Yeah, because I mean, stuff like wasn't really going viral before then. I was still, people were following me, but that like idea of like it's going viral and people are inviting you to speak places and you're changing their lives, it really happened in that moment.
I know for you, it's like this sense of responsibility that you have, right? I always tell people, even like with what I do with radio, like I have some sort of sense of responsibility, and what comes out of my mouth, I am responsible for. I'm responsible for where I lead people, and how I touch people every single day. Was that a challenge for you to walk into that because you are a preacher's kid?
Yeah. No, that was definitely a challenge for me. And so I made a commitment, like I'm going to be authentic. I'm not going to let any part of me catch someone by surprise. So between my podcast and my teaching, any ways that I am able to touch people, I'm sharing about my teen pregnancy. I'm sharing about, waitressing at the strip club. I did a DMX tribute episode
Wait a
on
minute,
my podcast.
You wait. I missed that. You waitress in a strip
Life
club?
comes at you fast. Oh yeah, definitely. Life comes at you fast. Yes, I did. I dropped out of college and I ended up waitressing at a strip club to make ends meet so that I could take care of, me and my son. So yeah, but I like to share those things because I feel like if you have a full picture of who someone is, then you can trust them more or choose to not trust them based off of what you need in your life. But I never want any part of me to take someone by surprise.
That's good. And I think other women, well, Houston is the home of strippers. I will say that. But I talk to a lot of girls who say, hey, I'm being a bottle girl, I'm being a waitress because I got to make ends meet and I got to get where I got to go in life. And then other people shame them for what they're doing.
Yeah, no, and I have a lot of people from different backgrounds following me. I think we have to remember at the end of the day, we're talking about people, like we're talking about actual souls. And I think that when we handle those people with care, that we give them room to be where they are on their journey and hopefully inspire them to continue grow and move into something that inspires them. I don't think anyone says this is going to be my lifetime career, right? For the most part, it is someone trying to get through a season of their life. And so being sensitive and delicate with them while they're in that season and challenging them to make sure that we're all looking beyond where we are, whether we're climbing a corporate ladder or waitressing at a strip club or dancing at a strip club, like what does legacy look like for you and how can we begin to lay the foundation for that now?
I know for women, people always expect us to have it all together. When you feel like you don't have it all together, maybe you're having one of those bad days and you're breaking down, where do you turn to or who do you turn to?
Oh goodness. Okay. So I do that soul care thing where I'm like, okay, what happened? Like how did we get here? Because a lot of times I don't know how I got here. I turn to my husband, I pray. My friend Shanice helps me to build Woman Evolve. Sometimes I'll just hit her up and I'm like, stress, carbs, life. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I go to bed because sleeping for me just does something to me. I wake up a different person.
But I want to speak on, isn't it okay sometimes to not be okay? Because I think people think you have to be okay every single day. And I found myself too kind of having a couple of breakdowns like, hey, I'm not okay. And the moment I spoke about not being okay on Instagram, it was so many women who could resonate with that. It's okay to not be okay.
No, we have to be okay with not being okay. And the more a woman says that, it gives people permission in her circle to do the same. There have been moments where I went on Instagram Live, even with pushing this book, and I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm out here. I don't love just like speaking randomly because I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. And I don't want sound bites taken out of context. And so it is very vulnerable. And some days I feel up to it. Some days I feel tired. Some days I feel fragile. And I share that with people. And it is helpful for other people to know, like, I'm not the only one who feels this way from time to time.
Can you give a you know, maybe some advice to young women or women in general? Because I feel like women who are career women, they come out this crossroad where it's like, okay, I have everything in my life, my career, but I want to, you know, I want to get married, I want to have kids, and it seems like, hey, in these streets ain't nothing out here about just waiting and about waiting, you know, for that right person.
Oh goodness, I get this so much, and I don't want to believe that there's no one out there, because I went through a divorce. I found my husband. He's an incredible man. I should say my husband found me, whatever. And so you know, I think that women have to really hold on to what it is that they want in a relationship, and they have to find a way to live in the posture of not needing the relationship to validate them. And you can be there one minute, and then the next day have a day where I really want somebody to be a partner in my life, but reminding yourself of why you're not in a relationship, what it is that you're looking for, and being okay. You're going to vacillate. I'm not going to gas you up and make you think like you're going to have the reason why you want to be single and that's going to work for you every single day. But if you can have a list of why it's important to you to have that person who is a partner and not just company, then in those tough moments, it'll help you to get through them until you get back to being, you know, your confident self again.
Woman Evolve out now. Sarah Jakes Roberts. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.